So I'm gonna start creating this cabinet out of a box, out of a simple box. And so the box will have obviously a segment to create these divisions between the shelves and the cupboards here. So we'll start with a box. I'm gonna trace it from this dimension that I have in the floor plan, again keeping my snap toggle on and just creating the box. Okay, then I'm going to specify the height. My height of the box is 198. Sorry, it's not right. So the height is 198. Okay, which is, if we look at the dimensions here, which is 220 minus 22 centimeter. Alright, so now you can see here I started some segments. Okay, changing them from here. So the segments that I have, I'm just gonna look at this and study it. So I have a division horizontally here in the shelves, and each one of them is either 22 or 44, which is double the 22. If you count this as 22, each big unit is 22, so you will have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 shelves, or 9 segments, basically what we need. So in here I'm gonna make sure that I have these 9 segments. So I have here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then I have to increase this to be 9 segments. So now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 segments. And then in the horizontal, in the vertical direction, you can see that the 160 here is easily divided into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So again, I'm going to go back here. If I look at the left view, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, because I have 6 segments here. Okay, so next, now we need to modify this. We have big shelves and then small or narrow ones. So I'm gonna right click, select this box, right click on it and say convert to editable poly. So since we divided this into segments, some of them are actually hidden, they're not within the design. We'll need to remove the ones that we don't need. So I'm gonna go to edge here and then select, I'm gonna start with the horizontal edges or horizontal segments. I'm gonna say loop. So if you say loop and then remove, you're technically just removing that segment and you're not really affecting the geometry of your box. So you don't want to delete it using the delete key in your keyboard. Make sure just to remove it from the modifying panel here. So you can see here in this cabinet we have 44, 44, 44, and then we have the 22, and then again 44. So we need to remove the horizontal segments here, except in this one, and leaving the narrow or short shelf, and then hiding the segments here. So I'm just gonna select each other horizontal segment, there, and then leaving this one, and then taking it here and going to loop and then remove. Okay, so now we have a 44, 44, 44, 22, 44. Alright, so I noticed that a lot of the bedroom actually is kind of in the way of my modeling, so I can say hide unselected, whatever I didn't select here, except, you know, for the box, that will be hidden, so we could focus on the box itself. All right, so I'm gonna repeat the same process on the vertical lines here and remove the ones that we don't need. So for vertical lines, we're not necessarily gonna loop some of them or all of them, because as you can see here, they get kind of interlocking in some areas that we need to delete them and some areas that we should not delete them. So the first line here should stay because it continues all over. The second one actually gets deleted all over. So I'm gonna go here. So this is the first line. I'm gonna keep the second one here. I'm gonna select one. Again, say loop. Alright, so since we actually deleted the horizontal ones, for some reason loop would not really work accurately here. So I would have to select it. Another way to kind of use a quicker method to select, I'm gonna look at the plan here, and then I'm gonna drag kind of a window to select only this line, and then you can see it kind of looped it for me all over. Make sure that you don't have ignore back facing on. Alright, so same thing, remove, not delete, only remove. Going back here, so this is the one that we deleted. This here stays all over, so we don't need to modify it. And here, however, and this line stays, and then get deleted, stays, and then deleted. So we're gonna take this one step at a time. So this one here, so this line is actually this line to create this small or narrow shelf. So what we need to delete is the line right next to it, this one. Okay, and you may as well just remove the ones in the back and say remove. Okay, and then this one here, we have a pretty wide one, pretty wide cabinet, and then so we're gonna remove both these lines to create this 3-unit cabinet here. And so now this one again gets deleted or removed. Here, here, there, and there. And then I'm gonna say remove. Okay. And so here, this one gets removed, so we can create kind of squared one, and then the long rectangular one. Here and there, they're both removed. Alright. Lastly, the big one in the bottom, we have 3 units, so both of these lines will be taken out. Again, notice I'm doing it from both sides and saying remove. Okay, so now we're only working with actually just 0 thickness lines, but you can see that these obviously are made out of wood, so it has a thickness. The thickness of each one of these is 1 centimeter. So we will have to create an inset inside. So I'm going to go to polygon. I'm going to select all these faces of the polygon in the back and the front. So I'm going to select it like this, and again notice I'm going to keep clicking on control and then select this edge here, select it from both sides, and I kind of skipped over the ones from or on the depth of this box. And I'm gonna go to inset. Okay, so if you click inset here, it will only create this inset for you in the borders. But if you say by polygon, so it will inset it for each polygon that you have. Okay, so this looks nice, and then we'll say yes. So you can see now we sort of have a thickness for our cupboard here. Okay, so since we inset it by 1, this thickness here became 2. However, this is only 1. So we will need actually to extrude this part here to make it have the same thickness as the rest, so it does not look too thin or half the thickness on the side. So I'm gonna go here and say extrude. Okay, I'm gonna extrude it by 1 centimeter, and then same idea that you extrude it by, oops, now by group we'll say local normal here, so you can see that the extrusion happens in both sides and it's still connected, because here if you say by polygon it will just extrude each polygon by itself. So we'll say local normal. Okay, all right. Okay, next we'll have to create this either back panel of the shelves or the opened shelves. The closed shelves will keep it last. So here, this one we have closed, and then this actually becomes just an empty shelf. So I'm gonna say, I'm gonna select this polygon here and say extrude, and I'm gonna extrude it on the negative to create a shell. So if I switch this to default shading, you can see how that looks like. Okay, so I believe this should be 33, or sorry, minus 33 centimeter. Okay, if you look at here, we're stopping just before the end, or the end thickness of our box, so you don't pierce it through. Alright, you can actually do this one by one, or we can select all the ones that has the back facing here and do the same operation on them at once. I'm gonna click here and say edge faces so I can see which polygons I'm working on. Right, so we have this one here, that one. This one is half, so we'll have to take that out later on. We have that one, this one here, this one there and there, right, and this one lastly. Okay, and then we're gonna say same idea, extrude. So extrude usually will take whatever setting you did last, so it will take that and apply it, and then we'll say okay. All right. Now for the ones that does not have any kind of panel in the back, we're gonna use bridge to achieve that effect. So for this one, for example, I'm gonna click on both sides here and say bridge. Well, you don't need to click on the settings, actually just click bridge and it will bridge it for you, or create that kind of subtraction for you. And so in here as well, bridge, that one, and finally this one here. Okay, so you can start seeing sort of how the shelves start to shape up. Okay, so next we see here where we have half a back panel here, which is this one. It's actually, we need to split this polygon into half and then delete the half of it here. So you may have not deleted this this line in the beginning. If you already removed it, we can actually just connect it back together, I guess. So I'm gonna go to edge, well, all right, so you can select these two and say connect here. Okay, and therefore the connection, should not. Alright, so this is, for some reason it's not moving it, which is fine actually, because I believe a better way to do it is just to quick slice. And again, I have my snap toggle on. I'm gonna snap from this point here to that point in there. Oh, I missed the point, which is okay. You can delete or hide the grid by clicking on grid, so you can see clearer. I'm gonna undo, try it again, snap from here to there. Try it out in the plan. Perfect. That's way better, and you can see it cuts straight. Right, so now going back to the polygon, I'm selecting these two, you know the deal now, going to bridge, and there we go. Okay, so now we're pretty much done. I don't want to go into so many details. You can try to create the seam here and all these seams around to define where the door is and where the structural panels are, but we're not going to go into that much details here. Next, I'm going to create the legs here. I'm going to start making a rectangle. I'm going to use sublines to create these legs, and then I'm just going to copy them over to the other side. Okay, so I'm going to look at the front view here, and notice that I have moved the cabinets by 22 centimeter already, using rectangle. I'm going to kind of draw it approximately. You can go back to the parameters here. I'm gonna change the length of it to 22 and the width to 140 right there. Okay, then we're gonna go to so a rectangle is not an editable spline, so we'll have to convert it to editable spline here. Okay, we don't need any of these, so I'm just gonna unactivate them for a second. So now we have 3 legs in the front, so we have 1, 2, and then a middle one in here. So I'm gonna go to segments, and I need to insert, yes, I need to insert a line here. So I'm gonna go to create a line, and I need it to be in the middle, so I'm gonna turn on the snapping of vertex and the middle in there. So turn it on, click here, and then this is the signal telling you this is the midpoint. I'm gonna click on it there, and then right click to end the command. So now this one we don't need, we only had it to define where the midpoint is. I'm gonna unclick here, select the segment and say delete. Alright, now that we have this kind of flipped E shape, I'm gonna go up and say enable the viewport tangent render. Okay, so you can see it from here. And now we'll see this sort of an overlap because of the volume we just gave to this line. So you can either take this down or take the shelves up. For here, I'm gonna take this up by 24. Okay, you can see there is still a minor overlap. I believe this might be a half centimeter here. Okay, so I don't need the snap anymore. I'm gonna untap it, and then move this actually onward. Then I'm gonna convert this to poly. And the reason I'm converting this to poly, because if you look at the lines here, they're actually a little bit slanted. And so I need to go here, pick these lower polygons there with these legs, and then kind of slant them or make them slanted forward. Okay. So I'll have to repeat this process in the other side, or you can just copy this over as an element of the editable poly I'm gonna copy this over to the other side and say clone it to the element that we're working on. So now we need to actually mirror this shape. So if I go here and say mirror, the thing is here we'll kind of transform the whole geometry that we have. So another way to do it, you can either not copy it to an element, you can copy it as a separate geometry, or I would actually just rotate it using again the snap toggle here to rotate and make sure that you have rotated to 180 degrees. Okay, so you can see this object kind of looks like it's mirrored, and I want to just align these two together here and then move them apart, just like that. Okay, so now this cupboard is pretty much over. We can go and work on the bed. So if you right click and say unhide all, okay, I'm just gonna try to zoom in. Hopefully this will get me inside. It's pretty dark inside, I can't see anything. So I'm gonna take the ceiling and say hide, and you can see this cupboard that we're working on inside the room. Alright, I'll see you in a bit.